Mark, good morning to you. And tell me, it seems to me that the fix is in. Mike, no Johnson, the testicleless wonder who passes himself off as Speaker of the House of Representatives, has sold MAGA short yet again. Tell me, how is this playing in the battleground states? Apparently, there's going to be a continuing resolution, a CR, that will last up until December. That is to say, to push the debate funding this bloated federal government until after the elections. Tell me something, Mark. Firstly, how is this playing in the battleground states? But specifically, according to your polling expertise, what point is there for Republican voters in actually voting Republican in November? If the Uni Party is going to kick in at every opportunity, this is the second time now, the so-called Speaker is going to be dependent on Democrat votes to push through his agenda. What is the point of voting Republican in November? And how is this playing in the battleground states?
That's such a tough question to answer, but I think I would say, what other choice do Republican voters have? Seriously, we just did another set of states. I have all the data. We're processing them as fast as possible. We have 3 of them back. Georgia is one of those states. It's going to Trump by 3 points, which I think is really good news. And I have reason to believe personally that Trump will probably outperform what our polling says. I think in Georgia, the generic ballot was +5 for Republicans. So that's the thing. Republicans do not like their Republican elected leaders. They give Mitch McConnell horribly, horribly bad results. And everybody says that the Republican Party is the party of Donald Trump and MAGA. And on every single issue, they want strong action, and they always seem like they get burned. We've been polling about government shutdowns all the way going back a year ago. And back then, 56% of all voters preferred a partial government shutdown until spending could be reduced. Only 34% wanted to avoid it. And it was like 73 to 22 for Republicans. Yeah.
Mark, repeat this, because the GOP establishment is hard line on this idea, on the narrative that a shutdown before the election is going to be suicidal for the party that causes the shutdown. Now, it's only ever the Republicans that cause that cause a shutdown. And as far as I'm aware, that's not actually borne out in actual election results. But in terms of the polling, It would seem to suggest that your Rasmussen polling here doesn't even corroborate this argument. Right? Taxpayers want to spend less. American taxpayers want to spend less. They don't want to keep funding this bloated, incompetent government, the federal bureaucracy. And yet, when it comes down to the wire, American voters, sort of Republican Party members specifically, are being betrayed by their elected representation in the Congress and in the Senate, because these two groups will bend over backwards to keep it going. But repeat that figure, if you wouldn't mind, Mark. That doesn't seem the idea that a shutdown before the election would be suicide, and that Mike, no Johnson has the big pressure to stop that from happening. Your polling here suggests that this isn't the case. This is a narrative that they have invented themselves to keep the regime going.
I would go even farther and say it isn't just about spending. It's about literally everything. And it's not just about Republicans. It's about independents, too. They want action on literally everything. So this budget shutdown one we did, it showed that 73% to 22% Republicans wanted the shutdown to lower spending. But independents, it was also 56 to 30. And then new numbers that aren't even out yet show that 63% of all voters support shutting down the government to try and pass new laws requiring proof of citizenship, including a stunning 61% of independents. And I'll go even one more. Out of our swing state polling, this is Pennsylvania numbers I'm reading, but we have it for Georgia also. If given a choice between two candidates, one of whom favored granting amnesty to all illegal aliens, or one whom favored deporting all illegal aliens, deportation wins in Pennsylvania 50% to 33%. With Republicans, it's 80%. 4 out of 5 Republicans want every illegal alien deported, and it's a plurality of independents. So this is a thing, and I'll tell you, I don't think, quite frankly, what I think now is that if you're a Republican in Congress, the odds are that the light at the end of the tunnel probably looks the brightest right now than it's ever looked, because in my opinion, they never really wanted to take action. And you know how I know that? Let me ask you a question, Ben. Try and think back to the last 3 years at any one single instance of any thought work, any polling that came out about messaging or the topics that was funded by a Republican think tank. I don't think you're going to be able to remember any, because they're not doing it. Listen, if they wanted to fight on things like abortion, I have the numbers. The country says that it's pro-choice, 53% to 37%, but only 15% of voters want abortion after 6 months. It's only 27%, 1 in 4 voters after 3 months. And even Joe Biden's sycophantic followers, less than half of them want abortion after 3 months. So
Mark,
they are not using.
Let's do this again. We've got to go through these numbers, because it seems to me that you're an expert here, a leading American expert on psephology, right? You know how this breaks down. I want to underline this for the Warren Posse. What you are being told by your Republican establishment is an absolute lie on every single metric. Let's go through these figures, if I may, quickly once more. 54% then would rather see a shutdown than more spending, right, on the federal budget. 63% would rather see, if I've understood you correctly, would rather see a shutdown unless the SAVE Act is passed. That is to say, to prohibit non-Americans from voting in elections. This seems to me to be exactly where MAGA is. Right? Exactly. This is something that Steve Bannon has said repeatedly.
Not only MAGA
is the voice. MAGA is the voice of the nation here. However,
even 47% of Democrats, even 47% of Democrats at least somewhat support shutting down the government to pass laws requiring proof of citizen to register to vote. It's not MAGA. It's literally voters just want accountability and action. All of them on everything? No, but almost every MAGA topic, it's 80% of Republicans and 50 to 60% of independents. In this case, it's even almost half of Democrats. So it's like they literally want action. And time again, Republicans lose the high ground on every messaging argument. They do it on abortion. They do it on spending. Like they do it on like election integrity. They were the first to jump aboard and say, yeah, elections are safe and secure. Guess what? We tested it again, and still more than 60% of voters think that the outcome of this election will be affected by cheating, and it's like roughly half of Democrats. Like, so I mean, like everybody grades Congress poorly, and I think only now has it really been exposed that it's not this kabuki theater where they're just constantly locked in this policy battle. They just don't want to upset the status quo. Neither party.
Mark, I come back on you and say that you're 45% there of Democrats. These people are, America First is a movement that isn't solely within the Republican Party. It embraces, I think, right across the American electorate. And there are a lot of people who support the America First agenda that don't formally identify themselves with MAGA. That's the point I think that I would like to make explicitly here. There are a lot of people who support this agenda, even though they don't consciously identify as MAGA. They don't necessarily think that they would support Donald Trump because they have an incorrect image of what he actually stands for. But the actual policies that he is pushing, I think, have a massive traction with the American public. And your figures here seem to suggest that. Would you mind, please, Mark, just repeat these statistics once again? And we have folk on the show in the rest of this hour from Georgia and from Michigan. This is the message that needs to penetrate out. Repeat to me once again. What was that? What was that 54% and that 63% figure, please?
Yeah, let me first say that all these crosstabs are public because of our gracious sponsor, American Thinker, who gave us a huge check to run into the field and get 10 states. That means everybody can look at these crosstabs, and they are so dense. This is the biggest poll I've ever put in the field. It has so much information in here. But out of our daily, because I want to go to one specific example after I read these again, but shutting down the government for proof of citizenship was 63% of all likely voters, 48% strongly, and it's 47% of Democrats, and 82% of Republicans, and 60% of independents. They literally all want it. But then check this out. This is the biggest example of why. And listen, there's a silver lining to this storm cloud. The storm cloud is the level of gaslighting here has reached absolutely epic proportions. Anybody who reads these Pennsylvania and Georgia and later today the Arizona crosstabs will be able to palpably feel the level of brainwashing here. We have things like atheists' number one issue, 41%, is abortion. But this little like 1-2 punch here, when considering gender and sexual identity issues, which candidates' values are closer to your own, 47% say Trump, 46% say Harris in Pennsylvania. That's a tie. But the very next question, do you agree or disagree with this statement? There are only two genders. And Pennsylvanians strongly agree by 54%, 72% at least somewhat agree. And only 27% of Pennsylvanians at least somewhat support transing the kids. So Republicans have no kung fu on messaging. Yeah.
Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen reports, Mark, that these data are absolutely astonishing. Not surprising, but astonishing to see these things confirmed. And I'm at a loss to explain why the Trump campaign team seems to be so instinctively blind as to the underlying reality that your data here is indicating. It would seem to me, from what you are confirming, that the GOP leadership in both houses are deliberately trying to sabotage any attempt at victory in November. Tell me something, please, if you will. You have some other news that Democrats, for the first time ever, have been revealed, according to your polling, to be the largest, the most significant, the biggest enemy for the first time ever. Tell me more about this, please.
No, I'd say it's not just Republican leadership, but the entire conservative infrastructure. I can poll between 1/2 and 1/10 as cheaply as any other pollster in the field. And I've done all of this thought leadership work, and not one single nonprofit think tank, except for like the two that have been our longtime clients, care at all about what Americans think. And when I looked at the swing state results here, what I see in a very scary manner is two different Americans. The Republicans in DC are not going to be able to hold their breath and come out on the other side of this and have this go away. The top two issues for Democrats are abortion rights and protecting our democracy, 68%. The top two issues for Republicans are rising prices and illegal immigration. Two totally different things. But one of the questions we've been asking people over time, who's America's biggest enemy? Iran, Russia, China, the Democrats, or the Republicans? And there's always been a little bit of back and forth, a little divisiveness. China's always taken the number one spot. But in Pennsylvania, and again, this was a tied result, tied with Trump, the Democrat Party is now the number one enemy facing Americans. 29% of Pennsylvanians say the Democrats, 21% say China, only 15% say Republicans. But what's crazy, the reason why Democrats are leading Republicans there is because independents agree with Republicans that the Democrat Party is the biggest enemy facing America. You know, like they like to talk about domestic extremists. Only 7 and 8% of Republicans and independents think that's a problem. And I mean, like we're literally talking about independents are 3 times more likely to say the Democrat Party is our biggest enemy than Russia. It's that crazy. So now, again, it's like, okay, if Trump loses and establishment Republicans get their way and go back to all those fat policy work, consulting gigs or whatever, you're not going to be able to put this genie back in the bottle. We got 41% of people in this country think a civil war is happening in the next 5 years. And the two parties, of course, Democrats say Republicans are their biggest enemy, 30% of them. And again, that's not, I mean, that's not like a majority of Democrats, but like Democrats by a 2-to-1 margin say Republicans are a bigger enemy than China. It's incredible.
The only thing I would say instinctively here, and the news coming out of today, that I repeat this from what I said in the open of the show, that the speaker, the so-called Republican speaker, MAGA Mike, he billed himself as. Oh, by the way, let me just interrupt myself. This guy claimed, he said he had a biblical worldview. I actually want to say it's absolutely true. He does have a biblical worldview. His worldview is based on Judas Iscariot, who is, of course, a character from the Bible. So I'm actually going to agree with him on this. He does have a biblical worldview, if and only if you're considering Judas Iscariot. The treachery here is incredible. The only thing I would say, listening to you break this down, Mark, is that as far as I'm concerned, the GOP establishment is equally dangerous to America as Democrats. I can't say I think the Democrats are worse. I think they are both equally bad, especially when they combine as the Uniparty, as they did. Both parties. It was a bipartisan vote to get back in April the 61 billion to Zelensky. It's going to be a bipartisan vote to pass this CR up until December. This is the Uniparty working in consort, and it's in your face. 6 weeks before an election, the message is going out, at least from the so-called control, the sort of control of the House of Representatives. There is no point in voting Republican, right? That is the message they want you to know. They would rather lose seats in the House of Representatives and frustrate Donald Trump and his agenda than keep control of the House. They are signaling as brazenly as they can, don't vote for this party in November because we will betray you. It's astonishing to behold, and it's astonishing here to hear your polling. Mark Mitchell, where can people go to read deeper, look in, analyze, investigate these crosstabs that you have? Where can they go?
Yeah, that conclusion you made is really the only one I can arrive at, because I have the answers. If you're confounded by abortion, I have the answers for you, conservatives. But yeah, go to Twitter at Rasmussen_poll. That's where you can see all of our latest releases and a link back to the crosstabs. I'm there too, Mark_R_Mitchell. And we've got a really great YouTube channel where I break this stuff down in sort of 10, 15-minute snippets. So I'd love to have everybody there.
Mark Mitchell, you are absolutely outstanding. Thank you for coming on the show this morning. God bless.
Thanks, man.